So we're going to look at locating angles on the unit circle. So what we hopefully can recall from the previous video about radians is that, if you haven't subtended any arc here, then the angle you've created is 0 radians. But what we're going to do in this part of it is we're going to think in multiples of pi on 2. So hopefully you can realize that no angle has been subtended here. So we've got 0 degrees. Okay, as we travel around, let's go to 90 degrees. You can see that pi on 2 radians is equal to 90 degrees. Okay, so that's one group of pi on 2. If we go to two groups of pi on 2, we can see that that gets us to pi radians. Three groups of pi on 2 is down here, and this is 270 degrees. And then finally, four groups of pi on 2 gets us to 2 pi again. So we've gone full way around the circle. Okay, so important thing to obviously recall is that 2 pi radians is one full circle. So we get 3 pi on 2 down here, pi on 2 up here, and then pi radians over here. The other thing I just didn't point out, which I should have, is that, pi radians in degrees is clearly 180 degrees. Okay, so then what we can start to do is we can start to break things up even more. So we can say, okay, what's at 45 degrees? Well, we can work that out in radians. And if we come over here, we can see that 45 degrees is pi on 4 radians. Okay, and then we just got to start thinking about adding 45 degrees as we go around the unit circle. So if we come to here, well, that's two groups of pi on 4, which is just pi on 2 radians, which is what we said before. So that's 90 degrees. Okay, so pi on 4, 1 pi on 4, 2 pi on 4, 3 pi on 4 is going to be over here, and that's going to be 90 plus 45 degrees. So that's 135 degrees. Then you get 4 pi on 4, which is just pi radians. Again, that has to be at 180. 5 pi on 4 gets us to 225. 6 pi on 4 gets us to 3 pi on 2. Same thing, simplified, right? That's 270 degrees. 7 pi on 4 is 315 degrees. And then 8 pi on 4 is 2 pi radians. So again, that's a full revolution. Okay, the next thing we might want to think about is even smaller angles. We could say, let's think about 30 degrees and what that might be in radians. So 30 degrees would be about here. What if we went around the circle in groups of 30 degrees? Well, this is what we're going to get here. So 30 degrees in radians, I encourage you to do the conversion from the previous video, but 30 degrees in radians will be pi on 6 radians. Okay, so that's 1 pi on 6 is there. 2 pi on 6 must be 60 degrees, and that must be simplified is pi on 3 radians. 3 pi on 6 is pi on 2 radians again. 4 pi on 6 is going to get us to 120 degrees, which is 2 pi on 3 radians, if we simplify. 5 pi on 6, 6 pi on 6, 7 pi on 6, 8 pi on 6, 9 pi on 6, which is 3 pi on 2, 10 pi on 6, 11 pi on 6, 12 pi on 6, and we're back to where we started. 12 pi on 6 is obviously 2 pi. So important to think about how we go around the unit circle, and we're sort of just using the fact that we're adding on, groups of pi on 6 in this case, or in the previous example, we were adding on groups of pi on 4 as we go around the circle. Now, the last thing I just might mention is that there's no reason we necessarily have to stop here. I could have gone 9 pi on 4 would be here. So sometimes we can go more than 2 pi radians, right? So we could be at 9 pi on 4 radians here, but that would also still be equal to 40 degrees. So 9 pi on 4 radians is 45 degrees. 9 pi on 4 radians, it would be equal to pi on 4 radians, which is equal to 45 degrees. So you can go around the circle as many times as you like, but you're just going to start repeating yourself in terms of the angle that's created. Hopefully that clarifies how to find certain angles on the unit circle.